Okay, hello everybody, welcome. This is a Bisq debrief on the Bisq version 1.2 release. Usually we call these calls the Bisq brief. This is a debrief. The agenda, let me pull up this deck here. Share. We're going to be talking mainly about the two big features in the release, the new trade protocol and account signing. Can you guys see the deck?
Yep.
All right, cool. Perfect. Yeah, so we're going to talk mainly about account signing and the new trade protocol, what they are, how they work, and what you need to know as a user. I think before that, we should probably talk about the release that we just had today, the 1.2.3 release, which takes care of what failed trades and offers and handling them in a bit of a handling them better. Christoph, would you like to just quickly talk about that?
Yeah, maybe just a quick info. So if you update to 1.23 and you might get some pop-ups, informations on transactions that didn't have any deposit. So there are different use cases in this version that are handled now, and it should point you into the right direction. What you can do to get your client in the right state again. Normally, it points you to do a SPV resync, so that's nothing to be afraid of. It just syncs your local wallet from scratch, and there's code in place also to clean out this maybe broken or not confirmed transactions. So you should have a working client afterwards again. Of course, there could be cases where SPV resync is no help. And in that case, I think you are pointed to the support section on Keybase. And I would always just maybe, if you get any error messages, warning information messages, make a quick screenshot and post it also on the support channel, so we know which error case you are in exactly, and so it's easier for us to help you. So that's regarding this transaction handling of broken transactions. And the other thing that's also kind of it's fixed. You probably recognize that you don't have a full trading statistics in your clients. You will only, so at the moment, so before 1.23, you only got live updates. So if you have the client running and trades were fulfilled, then you got them into your trade history, but you didn't get everything from the beginning, and that's also fixed. So now you should have the full trade statistics again in your client. And there are lots of other smaller UI and code fixes. Yeah, but the bigger two fixes are the trade statistics and the handling of the broken transactions. So that should be fine.
Cool. Yeah, if you have just to reiterate, if you have support requests, please mention them in Keybase. I think we're in what looks like a slow migration from Slack to Keybase, and particularly for support, it's important that that you use the Keybase. We had a couple of incidents with identity and I guess impersonation, and we want to make sure that that we know who we're talking to. So Keybase for support, please. The link is on the bottom of the Bisq website. There's an icon with the Keybase logo with the link to the Keybase team.
But that's just to point out, that is especially important, as also mediators and arbitrators are taking part of the communication in this channel. And yeah, on Slack, it just wouldn't be secure and easy to detect by users if they're really talking to mediators. And yeah, it would be too risky if you provide any information that leaks leaks your personal identity or something else. So that's the reason why we're handling the support tickets at the moment in Keybase until we found a perfect solution or a better solution, which will be a part of next week's growth call. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, so I guess we can start with the first item, account signing, and what it is. I mean, at a high level, it's essentially a way to figure out if a trader is honest. So we're trying to verify integrity as opposed to identity. Just make sure that you are who you say you are and that you're going to be honest without compromising your privacy or security. That's the big idea. The way we do that with the new release is if you're trading with a risky fiat payment method in a major market with a payment account created after March 1st of 2019, you must have your payment account signed by another signed, by a user with another signed payment account in order for to have your 0.01 Bitcoin buy limits lifted. Major markets are listed on the slide. So the US dollar, Euro, Canada, Britain, Australia, Brazil. All other markets, no limits at all, no matter what payment method you use. But if you're in these markets, if you're using a risky payment method, you have to have your account signed. A full list of the fiat payment methods that are affected are in the documentation. There's a link to that document on the last slide. I'll go through. But that's the thing to know. Sell orders or sell offers are not affected by this. They follow the original account aging that starts from the time that you created your payment account in Bisq. But buying with a risky payment method in a major market is affected. How does it actually work? If you want to raise your limits, you have to first trade Bitcoin, so either buy or sell Bitcoin from a trader. It says seller here, but that should really say trader or counterparty who can sign other accounts. You will know if the trader can sign other accounts by this checkmark icon that shows in the software. If you see that checkmark, that means that the person or the payment account is signed and can sign your account upon successfully trading with them. So you take an offer or take an offer from someone who has a signed payment account, complete the trade successfully. Upon acknowledgement of successful completion of the trade, the signing takes place. And then 30 days after the signing, limits to buy Bitcoin are increased. The waiting period is necessary to be confident about chargebacks. Chargebacks sometimes are not detected for a couple of weeks or so after a transaction has been made, and so we need to have a waiting period in order to be sure about that. Additional mechanisms to enable higher trading limits without this waiting period are in discussion. There are a couple of proposals that you can see in the proposals repository. I think number 93 is the main one on two-factor method using a second payment method to do this, to actually to verify an account without having to wait. But you can see more details there.
Steve, just one thing to mention. So
Sure.
So if you have an account that is able to sign other accounts and you are selling Bitcoin, then it's shown in a pop-up. But if you maybe skip over it, if you're selling Bitcoin and trade with an account that isn't signed, please wait as long as possible, also within the trading period, and before you confirm the payment, just to reduce the risk that there happens a chargeback within that time. Just for you personally, to be more on the safe side, and also not to sign any accounts that might are just stolen back accounts that create chargebacks, and then we just have to block the signed accounts and everyone who got signed by this account. Yeah. So it's just advised, if you're trading with someone who is not signed and you are the seller, just wait as long as possible within the trading limit and before you confirm the payment received.
Yeah, that's important. The 30-day period is kind of a safety measure. But you as the seller should, do whatever you can to protect yourself. So as Christoph said, wait as long as you can to confirm that payment. Yeah, and I guess I meant to mention this before, but that's a big reason that this account signing process had to be implemented anyway. We had an issue with stolen bank accounts a few months ago, and which resulted in chargebacks and issues for sellers on the network. And so chargebacks is really what we're trying to prevent here overall. And for overall, if you want to check your standing for a particular payment account, if you go to the accounts screen in the software, where all the details of your payment accounts are listed, you'll see a limitations section with the buy and the sell limits for your account. And so if you're ever in doubt about what you can or can't do with a particular account, you should be able to see the details over there. There's a couple of things in discussion right now about the mechanism itself. There's a proposal right now to prevent offers from being taken by those with unsigned accounts. So I mentioned before that if you want to have your account signed, you should take an offer from someone who can sign your account. You can right now also make an offer, and if that offer is taken by someone with a signed account, then your account will also be signed. But right now there is no way to ensure that someone with a signed payment account will take that offer. It could theoretically be taken by anybody with a signed payment account or an unsigned payment account. And so this proposal, if enacted, would require that someone who seeks to get signed their offer would be taken only by someone with a signed account. And there was another idea posted, I think it was earlier today, on a better way to seed the signed payment account base in smaller major markets. So the British pound, the Brazil markets and Canadian markets are major markets, but they don't have that much liquidity. And so naturally, as a result, their base of signed payment accounts is on the smaller side. And so they've had some issues getting started with trading among signed payment accounts there. So there's some ideas over there in that issue about how to fix that. So
yeah, so just for understanding, if you haven't used account signing or didn't read the documentation, we only sign accounts which were part of a dispute, of an arbitration case, where the payout, the payment transaction was confirmed by the arbitrator. So yeah, so that's just a small set of the trades that happen. And of course, in smaller, as Steve already mentioned, in smaller markets, there are not so many dispute cases, so we don't have so many verified payment accounts we can sign. And yeah, so, and to make it more easy, there's a couple of ideas. SQ wrote down a couple of ideas like that we announced, for example, everyone who is a market maker in the Brazilian real market, please just, if you do a trade, talk to your trading peer if they're fine to create a mediation case, and then verified or mediators are also able to verify the payment account and then sign it to increase the signed seats for the smaller markets. Felix, you want to point something out?
Yeah, regarding GBP, British pounds, just to mention that the most widely used method of payment there is faster payments, which does not have chargeback risk. So even though you can also do normal bank transfer, but if you use faster payments, you get the NA, as in account signing is not applicable. Just making sure that we all know that in case we try to make account signing required for something that doesn't need it.
Yeah, that's good to note. I would just encourage everybody to look at the list and the documentation of all the payment methods and whether or not they're considered to be risky by Bisq, because there could be some payment methods that you would prefer that you don't actually have to be signed for. So it's just good to be aware.
Also, Christoph, regarding what you said about bootstrapping the whole thing, it might be a good idea to tell people to use a very small amount so that nobody would normally trade with, so like 0.002 or whatever, and so that everyone knows that those are for signing purposes, and it'd be like a community service for sign traders to create those offers to allow people to bootstrap.
Yeah, but yeah, that might be more for the seller side. So if someone on the buyer side just posted it might just got sucked up by everyone who wants to buy Bitcoin for cheap. So on the seller side,
No, but
it can be done.
ridiculous amounts, like you do,
Okay, yeah.
one thousandth of a Bitcoin or 0.0001. Nobody's going to bother with that unless it's for signing purposes.
Yeah,
Nobody's
true.
going to bother to buy or sell.
Yeah, true. But just one question, Felix, regarding faster payment. Do we have account signing in place for faster payment or no?
We do not, but
We do
since
not,
you're
okay.
discussing maybe doing some changes for the smaller used currencies, I want to make sure we don't break that.
Yeah, okay.
On that note, any questions from folks on the call about what we've talked about so far regarding account signing? So there's a question in the chat. If the proposal to prevent offers from being taken by those with unsigned accounts, would this be allowed for signed accounts to prevent unsigned?
Yeah, I have something to say about that. I think that what Felix has proposed is more practical than that proposal which I wrote myself. If you really put a very small quantity, it is clear that you are doing it for signing. So in the meantime, while this proposal is implemented or not, I think that Felix's idea is very good.
So we should probably add that to the proposal as a comment. Cool.
Just a quick info about the number of initially signed accountage witnesses. That's more than 1,000. I don't remember the exact number, but this initial seed from the arbitrators is more than 1,000. So I think for the main currency, that seems to work, but for smaller markets, we might have a little bit of issue.
Yeah, I think it was 1,050 something. Cool.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure if I have the numbers in mind, but I think we got now, based on this 1,000, about 100 additional peer-signed accounts now on top. So it's a slow bootstrap, but yeah, depending on how many active seed accounts we do have, yeah, it works quicker or slower. Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else? So the question in the chat is asking whether or not this proposal would also allow signed accounts to prevent unsigned takers. So I guess the other way around. I guess that's something maybe we could consider.
So that would be kind of, as if you have a signed account, you just want to trade with other signed accounts.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So it would split up liquidity, of course, but yeah, I think if you already if you have your limits lifted and you're trading, let's say 0.25 Bitcoin, then unverified accounts can't take it anyway. So we do have this in place just based on the size of the offers already. So it wouldn't be a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think it would split. Yeah, as you said, it wouldn't split liquidity because of the trade limits. But in any case, what Felix proposed is a workaround without having to implement that restriction for the offer is not being taken by unsigned accounts. So I think that we should encourage people to that are able to sign to post offers with very small quantities. Yeah.
Yeah, and just one more thing I want to mention, so it doesn't give you kind of too much of confidence on this account signing. So if you see an account was signed and is able to sign other accounts, that just means there wasn't a chargeback on this account for at least 30 days. Of course, the more time goes by, the kind of safer it is. But yeah, there's never 100% safety. So yeah, you always have to be cautious yourself.
Yeah, it's trying to be an increase in confidence, not a complete guarantee of confidence.
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat.
So it's about incentives. I think pricing could be a big part of that. Just pricing. If people looking to get signed post offers that are at prices that are a little bit higher or a little bit more favorable, that might be one way.
Yeah, or especially if you a market maker or you want to help the kind of the amount of accounts that get signed, and you want to make money as well, you can just create this super small sell offers with a price point in your favor, and then yeah, if people see that you're having offers with an account that can sign, then they might be picked up way more easily than offers by people who cannot sign. So yeah, so there's also an option for people selling Bitcoin to make money as well by signing other accounts.
Yep. Okay, if that's it, then I think we should continue to the next topic, the new trade protocol. This was a pretty huge change that removed arbitrator's third key in the multisig escrow. Arbitrators were kind of not a great element of the last trading protocol. They were anonymous people who nobody really know who they were. Nobody really knows who they were, and but we're still expected to trust them as they had a third key to the place where all the deposits were sent for the trade. In theory, this means there could have been, I don't think there was, but there could have been collusion with the other trader, and just there was an element of trust there that really wasn't that great. And for the network itself, there was liability, which was a gray area as to what that actually meant, but removing that was important. And the new trade protocol does that by making the multisig 2 of 2, so the arbitrators no longer have a key. And the main result is two things. Number one, arbitrators are much less powerful than before. They do still exist. We'll talk more about what they do in a second. But the other big change is that dispute resolution is now also very different. It's now a 3-layer mechanism with trader chat, mediators, and arbitrators. So how does it work? Let's go through the process real quick. So there's a bit of a difference now when you start the trade. We already mentioned that you're sending your deposit and fees to a 2 of 2 multisig. The other big change is that you're now also signing a time lock transaction to send all the fees or all the all the funds in the multisig to a donation address. More details on the donation address is in the documentation. Essentially, you can think of it as a way to confiscate all the funds of both parties in order to encourage resolution beforehand. We'll talk about that in a second about why that's important. So the trade, if you have no issues, no disputes, no problems with the trade, essentially everything from a user perspective works the same. The difference is in disputes and how those are handled. There's 3 steps. Like I mentioned, the first step is trader chat. If you have an issue, relatively minor issue or misunderstanding or whatever innocent issue, you can chat with the other trader right within Bisq, end-to-end encrypted private chat, work out your issue. Hopefully most issues will be resolved that way. Second step, if that doesn't work, is that you engage a mediator and have them examine your situation. Upon examining your situation, the mediator will suggest a payout. Now, in order for the payout to be successful, both you and your counterparty have to agree and sign this transaction, this payout transaction. We expect that most cases, the vast majority of cases, will be solved by these 2 steps. If, for whatever reason, you have a rare case, a rare bug, or something more, more uncommon, then the third step is arbitration. Like I mentioned, arbitrators are very different in this new trade protocol. First of all, in order to engage an arbitrator, the time-locked transaction that you made before needs to be published. This transaction sends all the funds, the deposits, and everything to the donation address. And then the arbitrator will step in, look at the situation, and then if they side with the trader who engaged the arbitrator, if they side with them, the arbitrator will personally compensate that trader, the Bitcoin, and request reimbursement from the Bisq DAO. So because the arbitrator doesn't have any kind of control over the funds, the deposit funds, they will personally, from their pocket, compensate the trader. And then the arbitrator will request compensation or reimbursement from the Bisq DAO. That's essentially how it works. That's how they're able to solve a dispute and direct the funds in the case of a hopefully rare issue. Now, I glossed over a lot of details. One of the details I glossed over was what this so-called donation address actually is. Details are in the documentation. Right now, this donation address is owned by a bonded contributor. There's some contention over how that should be going forward. So there is a proposal right now, proposal 135, the link is on the screen, on changing that. So you can check that out if that's of interest to you. Another concern is on, I guess, so-called coin locking, on a seller just doing a bunch of trades and leaving after being paid, and leaving the buyer in kind of a no man's land. So that's another issue that's been discussed. But yeah, that's the basic protocol. Any questions? I've left a lot of details out.
And maybe just one thing regarding the issue 135 with the donation address. This attack vector that the holder of the donation address could use his power to kind of just get all the trades where he's in. We did have, I think, the kind of the similar situation before with the old trade protocol. If the arbitrator tries to clear the whole offer book, he was able to do so. He could just take all offers and create arbitration cases, dispute cases, and then just do a payout to himself. So we did have this issue before, this risk, without any time delay, so it could have been done immediately. It didn't happen because first there was this bond for the arbitrators, and only very trusted persons with reputation are arbitrators and were arbitrators. And with the new trade protocol, that got this problem is less, or at least it's time delayed, as you have to wait for the time lock transaction if you want to force these trades into arbitration. And but still, there is this discussion where we have to see, so if we are able to fix all technical issues, so there are hardly any bugs during a trade, then then we can see if it makes sense just to send all the funds to a burner address if a dispute is opened. But I think at the moment it's the risk is not so pressing as we had this issue before as well. But still, I do also agree that we have to have a look at that as soon as we've fixed all technical problems.
I have a question about that. Now, this attack, the one that would be scammed would be the arbitrator, because he's not the traders, because the arbitrator is paying the traders, and then he's expecting a reimbursement from the DAO, but he's reimbursing.
Sorry, maybe I said it wrong. I meant the one who could make the attack is the donation address holder. So the donation address holder just takes all offers and just stays silent, so that the other trading peer or himself just opens a mediation case, waits until the time lock is over, then creates a dispute, and then all the funds are sent to the donation address where he has access of it, and could just
wait. The donation address is public, right?
Yeah.
And the bond is also public.
Yeah.
So wouldn't this risk be solved by making sure that the amount in the donation address is always smaller than the bond? So maybe instead of using a burner address, what we need is a rule to make sure that something happens to donated funds so that that address keeps getting emptied, so it's always smaller than the bond.
That's not possible, because the attack could be, if it's done, the attack is done with a lot of trades suddenly, then.
So that's what you mean, Manuel. We can't enforce it by code. So it's we can have a rule that I think I'm not sure who said it, that it shouldn't be more than 50% of the bond that is there. But as Manuel said, if there are so many trades and they're just sending to the donation address at the same time, then it's really hard. As long as we don't have an automated system,
cannot increase the bond to such high levels that it could cover all the possible trade volume. So, but I think there's one important thing here. I think there's maybe a little bit of a misconception about the bond. The bond alone is not the only protection here. There's the voting. So this donation owner, even if he would, he could not have set up the bond, at least not in the UI, without having been voted okay. And without this, it would not be valid. So the bond is just an additional security. And the other security here is that it's a kind of like a trusted person, even if he's anonymous to the community. But there was enough stakeholders who trusted him and voted him okay. So they would not have voted a completely anonymous person for this role. And then it would be a real risk, first because it's semi-trusted. It's not a realistic risk. And compared to the old trade protocol, it's still maybe a remaining trusted element in Bisq, but there are many other trusted elements like the GitHub maintainers. We also would not allow any completely anonymous person to become who can produce the releases and produce malware or whatever. So there will probably stay for longer some trusted roles which are based on normal human relationships. We don't want to eliminate them. The DAO will not be a completely humanless beast. So there will stick this around. But the big problem with the arbitrator was that he was part of the trade with the multisig, and that had a lot of problems.
No. This is much better. The level of trust required for this is much better than with the arbitrators. So this is much more scalable. It's still a trusted role, so we have to find a way to change it. But we've moved forward a lot. This is a big improvement. So definitely no going back on this.
Yeah, I think there are two good ideas how to solve it. One is when we see that there are really very, very rarely such cases, which should be the case, also there should not be more like one arbitration case a month, then we could basically burn this Bitcoin. It's bad for the DAO because we are doing the reimbursement and we are not getting the money back with the donation address. The owner of the donation address need to buy BSQ and burn BSQ then, so the BSQ ecosystem has a zero sum. But maybe we pay for this to make this more trustless, and it costs maybe the DAO maximum something like 2 Bitcoin a month. That's one option, and the other option is to make a multisig, and then we are distributing the risk, and it's much harder to find 2 or 3 persons. But the bad thing with multisig here is they have to do the trades all the time, and it becomes very inconvenient for them to do the trading when you all the time need the other multisig owners to unlock the funds and so on. So I think at the moment it's not any realistic risk. It's a conceptual issue for sure, and over time probably we can move to a better solution here, but I would not overestimate this problem. And as said, there will remain like the GitHub maintainers and people who are doing the releases, we never will find a solution. Probably I cannot imagine any solution to make this completely trustless. With no money you could bond this or whatever. So it always will, it will always be based on personal relationships and on people who are there with their real identity. And when they would do anything malicious, then there's still the normal world out which would deal with such people. Also, everything unfortunately cannot work with perfect anonymity, and where you basically need to assume that everybody is malicious, and you have to build a system as secure that even those malicious people cannot create harm. We are far away from this, unfortunately, and probably some things will never be solved that way.
Well, eventually we hope to have atomic trades, right, Manfred? Eventually.
Yeah, right. We are very far. I mean, we solve many issues that are, you can trade with a completely stranger on the internet, and he can be a potential scammer. And beside this stolen bank account scam in April, we never had serious issues. All the rest were nearly nothing. There was a few friendly chargebacks, but there were maybe 5 or 6 cases that was not relevant. And the stolen bank account case was a systematic problem, and we fixed it now with account edge signing.
So Eminem, I think you are the one who originally made the issue, the proposal. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I'm still concerned about this. I think that you just need 3 Monero trades to cover the BSQ volume, so that the volume, the bond is worthless now. And I'm glad that the bonded role is trusted, but I have to believe that. I'm not sure. Can you hear me right?
Yeah, so it's similar like with the arbitrators in the old trade protocol. So it's
we are in the best case scenario, we are in the same place as before. It's the same now. I don't know why do we need to.
No, it's better. It's better than before, because now it's a much smaller percentage. First of all, it's scalable, much more scalable than with arbitrators. Because imagine you get 100,000 users. How many arbitrators?
All the deposit funds are going to the same address owned by one person. This is not.
But we only need one donation address. That's the big difference. We need more arbitrators in different countries who speak Chinese and other languages, and that might be new people who we never knew never met before, and there's a big security risk with
Okay,
donation.
but
But Manfred,
M&M, say we get the API up and running, and we make an algorithm that all the funds that go into the donation address get funneled automatically, not by human intervention, into offers to buy BSQ. So it channels back all the
yes,
funds to
yeah,
contribute.
that would be perfect, but that's not the situation now. Now we have all the funds from all the transactions triggered to the same.
Sure, but we're closer to being able to remove human intervention. I don't see how an algorithm could have been used to remove arbitrators, but I do see how an algorithm can be used to do a completely mechanical thing of, you know, creating an offer with those funds, with that address.
Yes, yes, I understand that. Technically, the 2-of-2 multisig, I love it. I love it. But after realizing this kind of attack, I've been very, very disappointed because this is not a bond security mechanism. It's a trusted system security.
There might be also another idea. I have not thought deep about this, but we used in the distribution of the trading fee to the arbitrators a algorithm which were pretty safe, maybe not 100%, but pretty good, and that distributed basically the trading fee to one or the other arbitrator. And we could use something similar, that we would have some core contributors who take a part of their payment in Bitcoin. So they are receiving then this Bitcoin part, and then they are reducing their contribution requests in BSQ for that. And when we have something like 5 such persons, instead of this one donation address, there could be then 5 such addresses, and their distribution who will receive this can be done by the maker. So the attack is always that the taker is doing the attack. When the maker is defining who will receive the funds, which donation address to use, then he has very low chances to be able to steal this money, or basically no chances. So basically, the core contributors could become a donation address owner when we would extend. Currently, it's not supported to have more than one, but technically it's possible. And then they could basically, instead of selling it to BSQ, they could keep it and request less BSQ. So for the ecosystem, it's still the same, because we print less BSQ for those contributors, and they get some Bitcoin for this. So they make the calculation, okay, I want 10,000 BSQ and I get 0.5 Bitcoin, that's 5,000 BSQ, so I only request 5,000 BSQ. And then when the reimbursement happens from the arbitrator, we are printing this money, and it's again a zero-sum game, but instead of doing the trading and buying BSQ and burning it, we are channeling it to core contributors who earn rather high amounts of BSQ, and they take a part of this as Bitcoin. So that might be actually maybe the best solution, but that's quite a little bit of effort to implement it, so it's probably not realistic that we get this.
Actually, since you bring it up, Manfred, it seems very reasonable to allow the maker, since he's the one creating the offer and most vulnerable to organized fraud, to choose whether it goes to a donation address or to a burner address. So if we already have that choice in, the minute there's any risk of of donations in the address being too high, we can tell everyone to select the burner address. And that can be done very quickly if the mechanism is already in place.
Yeah, I mean, to tell user to make a decision is very difficult here, because they don't understand the context and they don't know what's the right decision here. You have to understand a lot to be able, and even then it's difficult to make the decision. And then I'm even not sure if it helps when the attacker runs a script and takes in 1 second all the offers and try to abuse this. There's no time, basically, how we could react to. So I think that doesn't help us to make it more safe. But when there are multiple addresses, even if the attacker managed to get one address, it will be very, very, he has to be a multiple personality working for Bisq a lot, and then he's a major stakeholder, and then he has no economic incentive to damage Bisq, because he's damaging his investment, basically. So I think the circle is closing, that it becomes safe again.
thinking about the worst, say this kind of attack does materialize or does become a really big risk, how about straight 2 out of 2 multisig, and funds are locked forever until you get 2 signatures, and
Yeah,
no, we've removed the third step. Basically, we keep the mediation, arbitration, and no final.
Yeah, the easiest solution would be either to, I mean, we can vote on changing the DAO donation address, and we could change it to either a multisig, and then there are several persons who need to manage the multisig address, or to change it to a burner address, and the money is burned and nobody can.
No, I'm saying that in the worst case scenario, if this donation address third step doesn't work, you could just keep the first 2 steps and not have a third step. So trades are 2 out of 2 multisig without the signed transaction.
No, then an attacker could make a trade and go to arbitration, get the payout. The money is still in the 2 of 2 multisig. After he has received the reimbursement, he is signing with himself the payout from the trade, and that would be a systematic risk on the protocol. Also, that we need to burn the amount in the multisig is obligatory, otherwise the whole concept would not be safe. Because you can make a self-trade with yourself, and you're mimicking to the arbitrator that you got scammed. The arbitrator make a refund to you, and then you are doing the payout to yourself, and you have basically got 2 times the payout. And the only way to avoid this is that to burn before the arbitrator is doing the payout, their funds on the multisig need to be gone, either burned or in this donation address. So the trader has no access anymore.
So what you also could do, of course, to create a trading bot that just works with the donation address and buys up all BSQ that are available.
But somebody I mean, that's an Oracle solution, and as far as I'm aware, nobody has cracked this hard problem to make a real trustless Oracle. Some ideas were very close, like with TLS Notary, the guys, they had some ideas how to put the trust, for instance, in Amazon cloud services, that they could basically break the system, but nobody else. So and some other people are working on this. So maybe it's getting more realistic at some point, but it's also a difficult problem.
It would be possible to decide the address that will be sent after the arbitration between possible ranges. I mean, maybe the funds, when get into the arbitration, they will be destroyed or not, or sent to someone.
Could you repeat that, the last part? Also the audio, at least on my side, got cut up.
Sorry. In the Bisq client, to program the address that will be the destination of the destroyed funds or not destroyed, to be decided afterwards at the end.
I'm not sure if I understood it. The audio was pretty bad. You mean that the donation address is defined after the deposit transaction?
Yeah, somehow. I mean that the attacker couldn't know what's going to be the destination of the.
That's unfortunate.
Of the arbitrated fund.
Yeah, the problem is, you as the seller, especially, you will only agree to the multisig address when you have already created this delayed payout transaction. So that have to be created before you are publishing the multisig. Otherwise, you are at risk when this delayed payout transaction doesn't exist. Then the whole concept is insecure, and there is some blackmail risk and so on. So yeah, it's a requirement to have created both those transactions in the same time, and that the seller is kind of like have the power to do the publishing because he has more to lose. He has the more amount in the multisig, so he has no incentive to break the contract here. And I don't see any way how we could assign another address later. And yeah, you would need to create then the delayed payout transaction at a later point, and then the 2 of 2 multisig would be insecure.
I was thinking, to make it clearly, I know it's maybe impossible, but I was thinking about a kind of lottery in a way which the cost of the attack would be higher.
I mean, maybe there are some tricks with scripting that it's not a normal address. It's a kind of like a pay-to-script hash or some custom script. And I don't have a concrete idea, but maybe something is possible in this direction. The transaction need to be created before the deposit transaction is published. That's clear. But that it's not a normal receiver address, a pay-to-public key hash address, but maybe some script like a multisig would be the most simple non-standard script, but maybe even something more complex where I have no concrete idea how to do it. Maybe there's something possible.
And what about if we have multiple donation address holders and multiple donation addresses and they're just selected randomly per trade?
Yeah, that's somehow similar to the multisig. I have the feeling the multisig would be more secure, because even when the scammer has one address, he would get a certain percentage. When there are 5, then he would get 20%, and that can still be a problem and too much money. With a multisig, when we have 3 or 4 key holders, yeah, it's probably more secure and better to control. But yeah, I was thinking in the same direction also, and it's a possibility for sure.
All right. Maybe we can continue the conversation in the proposal thread. I just want to highlight, I think there might have been some misconceptions that this protocol was not, I don't know, I saw some comments that it might not have been thought through very well or not very well considered. I think this was discussed pretty publicly for well over a year, at least. I think we had a call probably about a year ago now, where Manfred went over a lot of the details. There was a proposal and lots of talk on GitHub and other places for quite a while. So would encourage folks to, if you care about this stuff and you want to see it implemented a certain way, follow the proposals repository. That's where most of the discussion on the big changes takes place. Right now, we're talking about the discussion on the Bisq, the Bitcoin donation address is happening on there right now. So the link to the proposals repository is on the bottom of the slide. I've also included links here to the documentation on the 2 big items we talked about today, account signing and dispute resolution for the new trade protocol. And the summary of both items is on the blog at the link on the top. So if no one has any further questions, I want to thank everybody for joining. We're going to talk next week about support in an area that I think needs a little bit of attention. So yeah, it's next week, same time, and we'll send out some more details and links for that in the next few days.
Yeah, maybe one thing. So if you're watching this and you are working for tech support, or you are very familiar with lots of different support systems, please join us on. There's a GitHub issue for this for next week's call. And so if you are very happy with some tools, please post links there. I think it would be great if we can discuss lots of stuff and collect lots of information up front before the call next week. So we have, best case, already something to decide next Thursday. Yeah. So if you do want to get involved, maybe even to run this kind of project to provide professional support for an open source peer-to-peer DAO system, yeah, there's that's the first that might be available worldwide. So yeah, I think it's an interesting project, and yeah, we need your support for that.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Okay. I think that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.